Hello and welcome to Research Talks with Alan Green from Brand UK, hosted by Stockbox. Hello, Alan.
Good morning, Mark. How are you?
I'm very good. Good to talk to you again.
Good to talk to you too. Yeah.
So today, another two companies on the list that you're going to talk to me about and present the investment case. We've got Kavango and Blencowe. So I think we're going to start with Blencowe. Is that right?
That's right. Yes, Mark. Yeah, I'm all set to put the investment proposition across for Blencowe, which.
Great. Okay.
Yep.
Well, take it away.
I'll take it away. Okay. So, good morning, everyone. Firstly, I'm going to discuss Blencowe Resources. The EPIC code is BRES. The company actually listed in April 2019 at 4p, seeking out an RTO, and was suspended earlier in 2020, ahead of a reverse takeover of Consolidated African Resources Uganda. At the same time, Blencowe raised £2 million at 6p. And as we speak, the shares are currently trading at just below 6p. They've hit a year high of 9p, and they dipped briefly below 5p, I think, a couple of days ago. But it's a very interesting story, and it's based, of course, in Uganda. Now, the two companies we're talking about today, both Blencowe Resources and Kavango, are based in Africa. Blencowe is based in Uganda, which of course is a landlocked country. Mm-hmm. You've got the DRC on the left, Democratic Republic of Congo on the left. Not the left, to the west of Uganda. Uh-huh. You have Kenya, Tanzania, and southern Sudan surrounding the country, but it's a very stable jurisdiction. It's an English-speaking nation, and it's universally regarded as one of the most stable African countries, with all the requisite qualities, support from the government. Right. To develop in-house projects, as it were. Okay. So the Orham Cross Graphite project was owned by Consolidated African Resources, and as a result of the acquisition, Blencowe Resources now owns 100% of the Orham Cross project. Now, the beauty of this the project is, I'll discuss the graphite market shortly, but I think from a mining standpoint, the attractive aspect of the Orham Cross project is that the graphite is very close to the surface, mm-hmm. and in some cases you're talking about literally on the surface. And there's a mining camp that's been set up at the project, and within 250 meters of the camp, literally there are graphite flakes on the surface or just below the surface. Mm-hmm. So clearly, in terms of recovery costs, in terms of mining, production, and all of the other factors, such as grinding, such as sorting, crushing, a lot of that process is removed, which basically you end up with a very low cost. A very low cost solution to getting the graphite out of the ground and to market. So a bit more about the project. Blencowe are currently en route to establishing a maiden JORC resource estimate. There is an estimate of some 3 billion tons of graphite in the ground, and that is an astonishing amount of graphite by any standards. And I think it's always good to compare sort of millions and billions, and one of the best ways to do that, somebody told me about a year ago, do you realize that 1 million seconds equals between 11 and 12 days? 1 billion seconds equals about 32 years. So it gives you, I think that's a very good way to illustrate the sheer scale of the resource that's in the ground there. Mm-hmm. So the work that's been undertaken thus far shows that there's this vast territory containing graphite, 75% of which is expected to be the jumbo graphite flake, which sells for $1,400 to $1,500 per ton. Mm-hmm. China currently, of course, is a net importer of jumbo flake. It doesn't produce a great deal itself, so there is a strong strong demand for graphite going forward. And of course, graphite has many applications. The uh, the primary demand for graphite at the moment is to supply steel mills for steel production, and it's a key part of that. And indeed, some 50% of the expected production from the Orme Cross project will go towards steel mills. But of course, we have this burgeoning demand for the EV and battery industry.
Mm-hmm.
Some 30% of the output from the Orme Cross project is expected to feed that demand. And some research undertaken by Benchmark Minerals Intelligence looks at the expected curve for graphite demand over the next 10 to 15 years. And currently the market is supplied, but there is expected to be a shortage from around 2024. And indeed, this backs up some other research I've seen from another client of ours, Cadence Minerals, but I won't discuss Cadence just at the moment. But there is an expected shortage in demand due to this burgeoning battery industry and EV industry that's going to sort of course, really dominate our lives.
It's used in like lithium batteries. Is it like a cathode? Is it in the production of lithium batteries?
It is, yeah. It's used. So every electric vehicle, for instance, contains between 30 to 50 kilograms of graphite within its lithium-ion battery. Okay. So it's a major part of the battery production going forward. And of course, we're really just at the start of the electric adventure. You've got electric vehicles, of course. An electric aircraft was trialed in, I think, Vancouver late last year. So electric technology to clean up the world and to push this new power source forward you're going to be looking at this powering every aspect of life. Obviously, cars. We also see motorcycles, of course, racing on the Isle of Man. They have an electric TT classification there. So it's very much across the automotive sector. Of course, it's in buses. It's in HGVs, and of course it'll find its way into a maritime application. And of course, into aviation as well. So it's a huge burgeoning industry, and graphite is a core key component of any battery that's produced. So we know already that it's one of the world's largest graphite resources. I mentioned that. The company had identified a high grade zone, some 250 meters from the camp as well. Blencowe have got a pretty busy 2020 lined up. Obviously, we've had the IPO. They've done preliminary, and they've now completed all of the drilling work required to lead to a first maiden JORC resource estimate, and that's going to be the key milestone, I think, for 2020 for the company. But the company has also said in its calendar for the year that it expects to advance feasibility work, and will hear later on this year, probably end of Q3, early Q4, about engagements with industrial and strategic parties for takeoff agreements. So, of course, that's going to be another key step forward too. Once you get to that stage, you've got a definitive takeoff agreement, and that changes the landscape completely.
Okay.
So initially, the company, because of the sheer size of the resource, they are targeting they're targeting an initial zone producing some 8 to 10 million tons of graphite. Putting together a mining operation with 10 years of graphite production, which still represents less than 1% of the overall deposit in the region. So the fact is that Blencowe owns the entire license area, the entire project. So you've got something here that once they have a mine that's operating profitably in one part of the license area, they can then, of course, start to mine the other parts too. But given the ease of extracting the product, there's obviously a very sort of compelling investment case here, I think, to get involved at this stage. I mentioned the expected rise in graphite prices. It is also useful, I think, to look at peer group comparisons, and there are several other companies operating in the graphite sector. There's Sovereign Metals, which are approximately 18 months ahead of Blencowe Resources. Sovereign currently have a market cap of roughly 25 million. You then have Walkabout Resources. Both Sovereign and Walkabout are ASX listed. Sovereign have a market cap of around 25 million. Walkabout Resources have a market cap of some 45 million and are 3 years ahead of Blencowe in terms of developing their resource. And the largest producer is, of course, Syrah Resources, which is producing in Africa, ASX listed again, 137 million market cap. And they have the capacity to produce now some 350,000 tons of graphite per annum.
Okay, and what's the market cap of Blencowe?
Well, Blencowe market cap is currently around 6 million. So it's it's right at the start of the development curve, and there's an awful long way to go. But as I mentioned just now, the key milestones I think for the company this year are that maiden JORC resource, which the drilling work has now been complete. So the results are being examined, verified, and then we'll have a maiden JORC resource number out with us shortly. After that, the next key phase or the next key milestone, I believe, is going to be the commencement of takeoff agreements, and already there are people on there will be interested parties examining the data from Oran Cross, and of course then the next phase is takeoff agreements, and on we go from there.
And you said they IPO'd quite recently.
They actually IPO'd. Well, they listed in April 2019. The shares were then suspended pending an RTO, and they listed again on the back of a 2 million fundraise in April this year. So we're really right at the start of that development curve, and as I say, the fundraise was at 6p. The company relisted at 6p. The shares have moved as high as 9p, and as I said at the start, they have come back, and indeed they dipped briefly below 5p a few days ago before coming back, and we're currently just below 6p now. So where we are now is right at the IPO price. So if you buy the stock now, you're getting right in at the ground floor where the investors came in at the outset.
Okay, and it's just the one project they've got. Is that right?
It's the one project. That's right. Yeah, that's right. But the size of the project, I think there are Kavango that we're going to talk about in a second. Have 3 projects, so and they're all at various stages of development. But I think the attractive thing about this company is it's a really straightforward, simple offering. One other thing I've not yet mentioned is the board. Cameron Pearce is the executive chairman, and Cameron I've known for many years. He's headed up a number of well-known mining companies, listed, and resource companies listed both on AIM and elsewhere in the world. Mike Ralston, a South African guy who's the MD. He's the guy on the ground, actually. Many years of experience in mining. But I also like the way the company have structured the shares. There's a very tight share structure, and also board, management, and vendor shares are in escrow until next summer, so they can't touch or sell those shares. And I like that. So you're not going to see the shareholder, the core shareholders, or the board offloading anytime soon.
And Alan, do you know much about the mining of graphite? How is it sort of done? You mentioned like jumbo flakes is what the Chinese like to buy. So I'm kind of imagining it's maybe similar to almost like a slate mine, in kind of how it might be mined and how it would look.
Yeah, I think that's a very good that's a very good comparison, actually, Mark. But literally, because the stuff is so near the surface, you and I could go there with a spade and we could dig stuff out of the ground. Right. It'd be hard work, but effectively at the end of that, you would have flakes that could be taken to market, and that's the beauty of this project, and that's why Blencowe just focused on this one project. because of its simplicity. It's attractive because in comparison to there's some projects where you're drilling down 200 meters, a kilometer in some cases, to extract the ore. Here it's on the surface, so the production processing, the cost of mining are minuscule in comparison to some of the other projects that we talk about.
Yeah, of course.
That's why I like the potential. And also, given where sovereign metals are, given where walkabout resources are, and of course Sire resources, this Blencowe is right at the start of the development curve, and there's an opportunity now to get in at the ground floor where the company came in at IPO level.
Good. It does sound like it's worth a look, particularly, as I said before, I've never heard of it, and I don't know if many people have, so it might be a good one to get in, as you say, at the ground floor, almost like now, really.
Absolutely. Well, we're approaching those key milestones now, so I think it provides a great opportunity to. I'm not saying this is going to suddenly explode into life, but this is the sort of share to buy. As a portfolio of mining assets, it's a stock to buy, given that we know the potential of graphite in the market, we know the demand from steel mills, we know all about the burgeoning EV and battery industry. We're seeing gigafactories spring up all over the place for battery production. Graphite's a core component of batteries, and also the fact, as I mentioned earlier, it's in Uganda, which is a very benign, stable environment, easy routes out to markets, easy routes out to shipping on the coast, and so on.
Yeah, well, that's another point, isn't it, about Uganda? I didn't know much about Uganda, and we are going to come on to Kavango in a minute, which is Botswana, which is quite well known as a very good and safe mining jurisdiction. But Uganda as well, you're saying, is up there as well.
It is, yeah. It's a very benign environment, very supportive to mining, and and also another factor is that. Which could partly be to do with benchmark intelligence view that there'll be a graphite shortage. The other graphite projects in Africa are in what are considered to be much higher risk African countries, such as Mozambique and Madagascar. So whilst there may be potential there, clearly if there are sort of political factors that come into play later on and issues that either prevent mining or limits production, then of course anywhere that's stable has a mine that can produce, and a stable benign political environment in which to operate, it's going to be much more attractive to potential farming partners, takeoff partners, and so on.
Good. Okay. Well, that's good. Thank you, Alan. So moving on now to Botswana and to Kavango. Now I know a little bit about Kavango, but really probably only because of my involvement with being a shareholder of Metal Tiger in years gone by, because I believe they're in the similar area. Is that right?
Well, Botswana, of course, is further south. So geographically, you've got Namibia to the west, you've got South Africa to the south, and the projects that Kavango are engaged in Botswana are very close to the South African border. So there's the Botswana, of course, became independent from Britain in 1960, and it has a very well developed road communications infrastructure. And again, it's a very easy place to work, and of course, easy access to shipping product out of the country, to exporting product either by road or by air, or of course shipping on the coast. So again, it's attractive from that standpoint. So Kavango Resources, Kavango was set up in 2018 with a standard listing, listed on July the 31st, exactly 2 years ago today, as we record this podcast. The chief executive is a guy called Michael Foster, who's very well known in the industry. He's ex-De Beers. He was MD at Reunion Mining and Zincox, also chairman of Copperbelt and Kazza Mining. Of course, Kazza is now owned by or became Arc Minerals, was incorporated into Arc Minerals. Mike Moles, non-executive director on the board, also worked at Delta Gold, Reunion, and Lonmin, and he's co-founder along with Hilary Gumbo, who is he's the exploration manager. So he's the guy on the ground there in Botswana. So long-standing management team. Three primary projects here. In fact, the Kavango website, well, I said both the Kavango and Blencowe Resources website, they're both very good. There's lots of information on there, recent presentations and so on to absorb and to go and look at. So first of all, we had the Kalahari Suture Zone, or the KSZ project, which is sited in the southwest of Botswana along the western edge of the Kapval Craton, which also overlaps into the Craton actually overlaps into South Africa to the south. Now, the KSZ zone is again, we're looking at peer group comparisons here. The KSZ zone is very similar in structure to the Norilsk mine in Siberia, which is a humongous mine and produces 20% of the world's nickel, 10% of the world's cobalt, 3% of the world's copper, 60% of the world's palladium, and 20% of the world's platinum.
From one mine?
From one mine. It's just enormous, this mine. It's it's one dreads to think of what the working conditions must be like down there in Siberia, but probably quite good. But in any event, that's not what we're looking at. Michael Foster said that in terms of comparisons, there are a lot of geological similarities in the way the KSZ zone in southern Botswana, southwestern Botswana, came about. So the geological similarities were confirmed by 2019 drilling, and from that drilling, Myra Geoscience were hired to put together a 3D model to look at what they call the trap zone. So as the molten magma bubbles up through the surface and cools, there are these trap zones where you find heavy metal sulfides accumulating, and this model has been produced. So they now have that to work on. The next step for the company is to conduct an electromagnetic survey where a survey is taken from the region, which will hopefully confirm what the 3D model has already put together. Once that's been confirmed, then drilling will be undertaken in 2021, and indeed that's going to be the key, I think, a pivotal moment for Kavango. I should say currently the company is worth just 3 million, so it's actually worth less than Blencowe Resources. But I think Blencowe is probably, as an investment case, a little easy to understand. But I think once we go through Kavango here, we'll see that the potential is absolutely huge. Shares currently at 1.6p. It's been as high as 3p on the year, as low as half a p. So yeah, we're somewhere in between the two. So that's the KSZ, the Kalahari Suture Zone, and the area in total that's owned and operated by Kavango is some 8,300 square kilometers, and the project is prospective for copper, nickel, and of course the platinum group metals, which incorporates some of the precious metals and the rare earth metals. Before I move on to the other two projects operated by the company, in April this year, there was the company raised a total of 468,000, 358,000 in a placing, and convertible loan note issues have basically ensured that the company is well funded to progress activities, both in terms of the electromagnetic survey for the KSZ zone and, of course, commencement of drilling next year. So that's where we are to date. So the second project. This is sited in southern Botswana, close to the border with South Africa, and again, this is a smaller. These are smaller zones, and they've also identified massive sulfide base metal deposits, including iron ore and copper. But they've identified within this, it's an area that covers 7 by 5 square kilometers. They've identified within this area 10 magnetic ring structures, and these magnetic ring structures are carbonatites, and carbonatites often include rare earths, and based on models that the carbonatites are similar to, have found neodymium and presidium within those carbonatites. Mm-hmm. Now, these carbonatites were drilled in the 1970s. A company called Falconbridge Mining drilled one of these carbonatites and sampled it, took a core out and sampled it, and it revealed high grades of niobium as well, which is another of the rare earth group. So again, there's a Dessau Camp huge potential as a rare earth. As a rare earth project, and of course, rare earths will include some of the key metals that will go into the batteries for the EV industry and the battery industry, as we discussed earlier with Blencowe. Mm-hmm. What's significant about Dessau Camp is that Michael Foster said earlier in the year they were looking for farming partners to come in, and of course, another well-known mining entrepreneur, Paul Johnson, who is the CEO of Power Metal Resources. Mm-hmm. He and Power Metal and Kavango Resources agreed a deal where Kavango would sell 51% of Dessau to Power Metal for £150,000 at 0.42p. And of course, the shares were the company took shares in lieu of cash, and Power Metal Resources shares currently sitting at, I think, 0.9p. So already they've doubled their money. So that will add substantially to the cash resources for Kavango Resources. Okay. So also in July, a couple of weeks ago, Power Metal Resources converted a 38,000 convertible loan note into shares in the company. So that deal has now been completed. Still some due diligence underway to be completed, but that deal is now done and over the line. So again, Kavango are well funded, and they've got a very resourceful partner in Power Metal Resources, who I'll talk about on a future podcast. Mm-hmm. So the final project that Kavango are involved in is the Kalahari Copper Belt, and this is Western Botswana. So look on the map; it's on the border with Namibia, mm-hmm. and it's a mineral belt on the Guernsey Ridge. And again, it's copper deposits. Copper deposits which are again very close to the surface. Not as close to the surface as the Blencowe graphite deposits, but nonetheless close enough. There's a joint venture that Kavango put together with LVR Geological Explorers on 2 licenses in the region. The terms of the license are there's a minimum of spend of $125,000 on each, with rights to spend additional funds to earn up to a 90% interest. Currently, there's 25% interest on these 2 licenses. So clearly, if the work that's undertaken is fruitful, then Kavango had the option there to increase their holding by raising additional funds. So a number of really high potential projects in the melting pot here. The other attractive aspect for me in particular was that the company have been seeking to preserve cash throughout, and indeed recently settled some management fees with convertible loan notes going forward. So again, these directors have skin in the game. They're sort of keen to see the project succeed. And in this environment, I know we spoke about this before, Mark, in this environment where we have the ongoing devaluation of fiat currencies around the world as governments print money and pump money to prop up the economies and prop up communities and people on lockdown. raw resources like this, raw commodities like this, will be increasing in value. They're tangible commodities, and I think we're at a very exciting juncture because a lot of these small junior mining companies that have ownership of these projects will see a resurgence of interest because with fiat currency devaluing, there'll be a move towards looking at hard tangible commodities to invest into.
Yeah, okay. So they've got the three projects: the Kalahari Copper Belt, looking for copper, and Ditau. What are they looking for?
Ditau is rare earths. I mean,
Rare
there
earths.
is.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep, there are base metal deposits there too, iron and copper. But with the carbonatites that were identified, the key focus there is for rare earths, and
Okay.
and indeed, going back to the Falconbridge drilling in the 70s identified rare earth niobium in one of the drilling samples that were taken. So with modern methodologies with 3D modeling and with electromagnetic surveys, they've picked up these other 10 carbonatites, and
Okay.
we look forward to hearing more from that.
And the other project, the KSZ, the Kalahari Suture Zone, that's targeting a similar sort of deposits to Norilsk.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
a polymetallic project.
Okay.
You've got nickel, copper, and platinum group metals, and
Right.
given the sheer size and scale of the KSZ zone, I imagine there will be other commodities in the ground there that could be extracted. But clearly, this is where the focus is on those on nickel, copper, and the PGM group metals to start with, just purely because of the geological similarities with the Norilsk mine. But as I say, electromagnetic survey on the region before the end of the year, and then we'll have drilling work commencing in 2021.
Okay. Yeah. So they've got a lot then, haven't they? A lot under their belt.
They have, yeah.
Yeah.
And there are different phases too. But
Yeah.
I think the fact that on the Ditto, going back to the Ditto again, the fact that Paul Johnson of Power Metal Resources got involved there. Paul's a very canny mining investor, and also, of course, Andrew Bell, Red Rock Resources, is the chairman there too, and they have a number of projects around the world. But the fact that he's got involved in this project is highly significant for me, anyway. Just knowing what he's done and what he's achieved in the past.
And Kavango's quite cheap, isn't it? Just over 3 million market cap at the moment.
Yeah, it's cheap as chips. Excuse the pun, but yeah, it is. I mean, a 3 million market cap. Clearly, when you're investing into a junior mining company like this, there are phases that, in terms of developing an asset, that you have to go through. And of course, with the primary, what I consider to be the primary project within the asset portfolio, which is the KSZ zone, that is being developed. We've had the modelling done, and once we undertake the drilling next year, then I think we'll get an idea of the size and the scale of that project. But by the looks of it, if you go to the website and look at the map, by the looks of it, the sheer scale of the territory, I mean, 8,300 square kilometers is a huge area by any standards. And once the drilling work commences and we get some data back from that, then I think you'll see a material change in the valuation of Kavango Resources.
Yeah, I'm sure. And their website is very good. I'm just having a look now. There's lots of information on there, and it's very well laid out.
Yeah, there's a very good presentation too. So if you go to the investor relations part, there are sort of news releases, and there's a link there for presentations. And the presentation on KSZ is very detailed. Lots of geological data, which we could have gone into more detail, but frankly, I think it's our job here is just to give a broad overview so people understand the core projects, and then they can go on and delve in and do their own research.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Alan. I think that covers both those companies in a good amount of detail. Just a final thought, perhaps. How's the markets looking, do you think, at the moment, generally?
Well, of course, we've seen a big retracement over the past few days. The FTSE fell heavily, and again, I think we're seeing the markets ebb and flow based on on the expected. I think the initial surge a few weeks ago was based on expectations that travel and leisure companies would get back to some sort of normality. But of course, with the second wave, although people are saying second wave, I think it's the first wave that never went away. I just think lockdown really kept a lid on it.
Yeah.
We're going to see this ebbing and flowing, but I think any downturn in some of the financial stocks or in other sectors could well be offset by the resources sector. Not so much oil, but certainly in terms of mining and commodities. I think we'll see strength in those areas, probably offsetting the weakness in other areas. So I don't expect to see a huge change, but all the while the government are supporting industry and supporting companies, individuals, and employees with furloughing schemes. Then I think the net result will be a devaluation of fiat currency, but I don't think the impact would be as great as it would have been, say, 20, 30 years ago, or even 80 years ago in the 20s, where you had the Great Depression, because we didn't have a centralized banking system.
Yeah, of course. And gold. What's your view on gold?
Well, gold, I think, is at the forefront of the safe haven investment, if you like. And in times of uncertainty, historically, there's always been a rush to gold, and gold, I think, is now the key asset to own. And we've spoken about gold mining companies, of course, ECR Minerals, with its gold, with its two gold prospects, Creswick and Bayliston, in central Australia, and these gold mining companies are now seeing intense demand and interest from both retail investors and institutional investors. Because they, of course, it's I don't expect to see a slowdown in the gold price anytime soon. I just expect to see a gradual increase throughout the year. I mean, we could be looking at I don't know, $2,500. $2,500 per troy ounce by the middle of next year.
Yeah, that's what I've heard from a few people. So hopefully, good times ahead for the mining and exploration space generally.
Indeed.
Yeah, great. Okay, well, thank you very much, Alan, for talking to us again.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks then. Bye-bye.
Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to this Stockbox interview. For more information, interviews and videos, visit our website at stockboxmedia.com or give us a follow on Twitter by searching @StockboxMedia.